Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to Do Station with another video. I hope you are good, you are healthy, you are enjoying, you are learning as well, and my efforts are helping you. Also, thank you for your kind support. We are covering our series on the fundamental concepts in HSE, in which we are understanding the key terminologies of the HSE. So today will be the last video of those terminologies we already covered. We almost covered most important one. So the new terminologies we will cover today include the term we usually use, reasonably foreseeable. Then there is another term that is called as far as is reasonably practicable. And then we will learn, understand what is the employer and what is the responsible person and what is the relevant person, and then what is meant by the employee. So these are few terminologies that we will understand today. Also, if you have any questions, feedback, any suggestions, please share with me. So let's start. Go to our topic today and start understanding. Welcome to the presentation of HSE ABC to XYZ with Dr. Dose. Learn from the scratch. We are doing our series about the fundamental concepts in HSE, in which we are covering the key important terminologies in HSE. Today will be the last video about the terminologies. We will cover all of them today. So it will finish. It is the 10th part. So discuss about the introduction. We know that these terminologies are very important, crucial one to have a good understanding. So we can implement our knowledge and practice in the field effectively and play our role more positively and productively. So let's look which terminologies we are going to cover today. So basically today I grouped the terminologies related to the legal requirements. Basically, these are very important for especially those who are responsible to manage HSE at any level, especially the managerial levels. So today we will cover the reasonably foreseeable risk. This is a legal terminology. Same is so far as is reasonably practicable. Then we will understand what is immediately dangerous to life and health. What is employer, employee, responsible person, relevant person, and then vicarious liability. So these are two terminologies we will cover today. So the one number first one, the reasonably foreseeable risk, very important one. As we know that it is a legal responsibility to cover or manage the workplace safely, enforce the HSE. So in case something bad happens, so there can be legal consequences, prosecutions, fines, even the imprisonment can happen. So those who are managing the HSE, it is very important to have a good understanding of this. So basically, let's first define it. What is a reasonably foreseeable risk? Hazards or risks that can be predicted by any reasonable person considering the circumstances and available information, or hazards that a competent person with appropriate knowledge and experience could predict or expect to occur in the given situation. So what is it? So as we discussed, it is our legal responsibility. So law will come in action if anything bad happens. So the question arises, what is the criteria of the risk? So which risk we need to cover under we are responsible for? Otherwise, the law will come into the action. So for that, a law gives us a criterion, you can say that, or the boundaries or the perimeters under which any risk that comes under them is basically called the reasonably foreseeable risk. So all those risks which are reasonably foreseeable risks are we must control them. So how we decide them? So the same again law give the criteria. Let's look at which criteria. So the criteria to identify the reasonably foreseeable risks which are mandatory to cover, otherwise the law will come into the action. Those risks which come under the common knowledge. So what is a common knowledge? So this is basically general perception of each individual or understanding of the each individual. Everyone knows that due to the common sense that fire is hot, so this can harm us. So any such hazards or risks that come under the common knowledge, we have to cover them. We have to make sure that those are controlled. Then the second, industrial knowledge. The risks that come under the scope of or the umbrella of the industrial knowledge, or we get the information from the industrial knowledge about, we must cover them. So like we have the chemicals. So with chemicals, we get MSDS data sheets, safety data sheets, SDS we call them. So from those information, then for the equipments and material, other sort of equipments and plants, we get the equipment or plant safety manuals. So the information we can get from them. Then there are standards like ISO standards, OSHA standards, ILO standards. So the information we mentioned there, this all belongs to basically the industries, different industries. So any information that we can get from them, we must get, and we must control all the risk or hazard that are covered under those. Then third risk that we can identify using the expert knowledge. We know that in every field or every domain or process, there are expert people who have a sufficient knowledge, specialized knowledge, experience, sufficient experience. So using those their skills or expertise or advisory services, we must cover all the risks that they can identify, like specialist in chemicals or design engineer for process or equipments. Similarly, the expert auditors. So we can get their expertise. So any risk that we can identify using their services, we are accountable for that. So then fourth knowledge basically comes legal knowledge. So we have for the processes of our business, industry relevant regulations, acts are there which are passed. So we can get the information from those acts or regulations. Or usually the regulatory bodies that are implementing those, they provide the guidelines and sufficient information, so we can follow them. So any risk that comes under these knowledge or we can identify uh, using these knowledges, we must control them. These are called reasonably foreseeable risks, and we are accountable for them. So next term is so far as is reasonably practicable, another legal term. Now this term basically last we understood the reasonably foreseeable risk that we must control. Then question arises at to which level we must control them. What is the level we will reduce the risk to? So by the law, we must reduce all the risk to the level of so far as is reasonably practicable. This is let's first define it. The employer must take all the reasonably practicable measures which are practicable for that organization to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of employees and others who may be affected by their work activities. Basically, this is a legal standard or principle that compares the cost benefits of the control measure against the cost, effort, time we need to put for them. Then it let us know is it affordable or suitable for us or not. There is another term that is called alap, as low as is reasonably practicable. These two, this and that, are different, distinct terms. Basically, the alap basically belongs to the very dangerous or critical activities by nature, which are by nature very dangerous or critical. It developed basically during the start of the nuclear industry. We know that this is very activities involved in the nuclear industry are very dangerous. So at that time, it was developed to control them effectively. And then this one so far as is reasonably practicable is a basically legal term that developed later with the regulations or legislations as developed. So the lab basically belongs to the critical activities, but this term belongs to any activity an organization do. Basically, all the risk under the that comes arises due to the activities of the organization comes under this. So we must reduce all of them to this level. So this is the minimum basically threshold or the level of the risk that organization will achieve. Another thing, this is a subjective, also subjective, as we know that the affordability factor of the each organization is different. Some organizations are very small, new, some are very big. So it depends. Secondly, the practicality in different conditions or situations. So it depends. It can change for, it can be different for different organizations. And now also nowadays, both of these terms, ALAP and this one, are being used interchangeably. So because they are very similar to each other, so you don't need to confuse about them. So let's now how we will decide that what is the level of the risk for an organization which is suitable for or which is so far as is reasonably practicable for the organization. So again, law gives us the criteria here. So first we conduct the cost benefit analysis. We see whether we can afford it. We compare the cost of the control and then benefit, and then we see can we afford it or not. Then technical feasibility. We consider the technological aspects we are going to implement, we need, are those affordable or available to us, and then conditions, the conditions we are facing, are they suitable. Then the practicability, the accessibility, either these the controls we are suggesting is available, easily accessible for us, and can we maintain it for the longer duration of the period. So are they maintainable or not? These are the factors. Then the risk reduction level. We also then fourth factor that we decide on is the risk, how much the risk, how effective that will be for us. So these are the few factors based on we decide what level is so far as is reasonably practicable for us. Now let's understand this easy example. The example I gave you the last time related to the work at height. Let's say we have a work at height. We are using a scaffold where the worker is working at height. So we provided very robust fall protection system, and also we provided very robust or good fall arrest system. So now we thought this worker is safe for us. Then we look, there is a residual factor, residual risk factor. Let's we consider that maybe there is an incident, vehicle collides with the or strike with the scaffold, and at the same time, unfortunately, or due to the negligence or the mistake of the worker, he was unable to attach his harness safely, secured safely. So, due to the incident, again, there is a risk that the person will fall from the height, and it can be very dangerous for him. So, in this situation, now there the organization conducting this activity. Let's say this is a small project and small organization, so he cannot afford further control. Like there are safety nets that can be installed or airbags for the activity. So we can install them on the ground. So if the worker falls, so they will save it. So for a small organization or the small projects, it is not affordable. But on the other hand, there is a $1 million project, a very big organization that is working, starting a big project. So there, if that same activity is happening, the law will ask him. So you are doing a big business, you can afford it, you can afford the safety nets, you can afford the airbag. So you must install them. So that is. So you see that for the small organization, the so far as reasonably practicable was whatever he provided the robust fall protection and fall arrest system. So that was enough. But for the big organization, the law says that no, you must implement the further controls like airbags or airnet. So this is how it works for the different organization. So that is called so far as is reasonably practicable. So the next term is immediately dangerous to life and health. Basically, it is related to the health hazards, especially the hazardous substances. So let's first define it. An atmosphere that poses an immediate threat to life would cause irreversible adverse health effects or would interfere with an individual's ability to escape such an atmosphere is called immediately dangerous to life and health atmosphere. So what is it? It was developed by the NIOSH, which is a US body for the research and development. So it says that it also comes under the reasonably foreseeable risk, but as it is very dangerous or can be catastrophic, so we deal it or handle it as a separate subject. So, so what is it? This is a condition or atmosphere in work environment where the concentration or the amount of the hazardous substance, which is very dangerous, toxic, like or radiations, alpha, beta, gamma, so that they can kill us immediately or they can cause us the irreversible health effects immediately, like cancers or changes in the DNA, which can cause the birth issues like abnormal birth. So any such environment is called immediately dangerous to life and health, and to control it effectively is the responsibility of the employer. So let's look at the key characteristic of it. So number one, immediately. So the impact or effect causes you affects you immediately in such environments. It can take your life or can cause you the severe diseases. Life threatening, obviously, we discussed. It can take your life, and also it can make you the impair your senses to respond or react to the situation, and maybe you can not escape. Usually, you cannot escape such conditions, and you will fall down or collapse, or you can lose your consciousness. So they will hinder in your escape. So these conditions are basically called immediately dangerous to life and health. Let's look at example. Let's say H2S, hydrogen sulfide gas, which is very dangerous, toxic. In confined spaces, we encounter them, especially in oil and gas rigs. So, if you get exposed to the H2S, so there is no chance, almost there is no chance you will survive. This is so dangerous. So it will immediately kill you, or it will impair your senses in few seconds, and you will fall down, and you will not be able to react effectively. Then oxygen deficiency, maybe carbon monoxide, we call it silent killer. So you will just feel like you are going to sleep, you are sleepy, but in few seconds you will fall asleep. Now basically you will die. And then obviously there are maybe the flammables that can explode the environment. Then radioactivities where the alpha, beta, gamma radiations are involved. Even exposure of a few seconds can cause severe consequences like cancers or changes in the DNA. So any such environment that meets these criteria is called immediately dangerous to life and health, and we must control it effectively. We need a comprehensive control system. Next term is employer, another legal term. Let's first define it. Employer is an entity that hires people, or employer is an entity that governs the business. We call them organization, owner, management, duty holder, etc. So basically, employer is the individual or the entity that controls the business and governs it. Let's look into the key account. So basically, employer is the absolute or the ultimate responsible person to ensure that all the HSE requirements, legal or standard whatsoever, are fulfilled and organization comply with them. Then it is the responsibility of the employer to ensure that all the legal rights of the workers are provided and they are not deprived of them. Then there is a term that is called employer's liability insurance in the UK especially. It is that is mandatory for all the employers to have the employer's liability insurance for each of the worker. Basically, what is this? This is the type of insurance that basically compensates the worker in case he wins the compensation claim, irrespective of the financial condition of the employer. Also, to ensure that worker or any affected person who may be affected by the business undertaking is compensated accordingly. So this is called employer. So then there is another term, a legal term, employee. So the one individual who works under the direction and control of the employer and is entitled to a safe and healthy work environment, or individual who work for employer typically in exchange for the compensation benefits or the other form is called employee. So basically, who is the individual who works under the employer legally with mutual contract in which he exchange its services for the financial benefit is called the employee. So let's see key account. So it is the responsibility of the employer, or it is the right of an employee to have a safe workplace and environment, necessary information, instruction, and training to conduct its job or operate its equipment, machinery, and provision of the safe equipment, safe plant, safe machinery, provision of the required personal protective equipment required to conduct the job safely, and basic welfare facilities, which are basic needs of the life, like toilets, washing, eating facilities. So these are few rights, or you can say that the responsibility of the employer towards the employee. So the next term is basically the responsible person, very important one. The individual or the designation accountable for the ensuring the health and safety of all the relevant person is called the responsible person. Basically, this definition belongs to the ultimate responsible person who is responsible to ensure the ultimate responsibility of the every relevant person. But anyone who belongs to organization legally have a contract is a responsible person. If anyone breaches the requirements of the contract, no, because once you have a contract with any organization, these are your legal requirements as well. So anyone breaches those requirements, violate them, he can face the consequences from internal to external, like legal consequences, imprisonment, fines, etc. So anyone who is working in the organization is a responsible person at a certain level. Let's look at, let's say, safety officer. Uh, we are just discussing the safety team because we are covering the HSE. So a safety officer, he has responsibility to make sure that all the instructions given by his senior, he is going to implement effectively on the site. If he fails, there may be the consequences. Some may be the internal, or if something serious happens or serious negligence happens, maybe the legal consequences, prosecutions, fine. Similarly, for the supervisor, whatever the responsibilities he has regarding the HSE, he must fulfill. Same for the manager to ensure the safety of whole organization, as well as for the external factors, environment also. So any one part of the organization has the responsibilities which are not legal and they must fulfill. But the ultimate responsible in the context of the HSE domain is the employer, because he is the one who must make sure that all of the requirements which are needed for the effective implementation of the HSE, from the competencies, selection of the workers' competencies, from the resources, financial, human resources, a development of the procedure, administrative controls. So anything, whatever is required for the HSE, effective HSE, He is basically the responsible, the employer is the responsible to ensure that. So that is why he is called the ultimate responsible person. Now, next term, relevant person, very important one. The person who is legally present at your organization or any legal person who may be affected by your undertaking is called relevant person. Simply saying, anyone within your organization or maybe the outside your organization who may be affected by your undertakings, activities, services, products is called the relevant person. So let's say key accounts. Responsible person under the implication of the law must protect every relevant person from any harm that may result due to the undertaking of the organization. So basically, they include employees, contractors, subcontractors, government officials, client, then general public, society members, anyone, social members, social workers. So anyone who may be affected by your undertakings is called relevant person, and it is the responsibility, legal responsibility of the employer or the ultimate responsible person to ensure their health and safety. So next term is the last of today's various vicarious liability, very important legal term and very interesting also. So let's understand legal principle that holds an employer the ultimate responsible person responsible for actions, conditions, outcomes due to the employees of any event within the scope of their organization. What it says that if there is some situation where something bad happens due to your employees, there is no mistake by the employer, but the mistake of the employees. Even then, the responsible person will be the employer. This is interesting, but this is very right. How? We will see now. So, if any situation happens where due to the employees' acts, something bad happens, maybe to colleague employees, they fight with each other. Maybe there is some injury, serious injury, or to the customers. Maybe they harm your employees, harm your customers in some manner. This happens, especially in the delivery companies. So, in any case, the ultimate responsible person will be the employer. How? Let's understand it. So, law asks or law says that who is responsible for the resource management? Who is the person who hired the person who caused the harm? Who checked the competency? Who checked his knowledge, experience, attitude, everything? So obviously the employer. Then who manage them? Who is the responsible for the resource management? Who give him the designation? Who let him to do this work? Then who is the responsible to control this activity effectively? Employer. Who is the responsible to communicate the instructions or guidelines or the procedures that must be followed effectively? Then who is the responsible to supervise the activity where the situation can be dangerous? So who is the responsible to provide the effective supervision and monitoring? Obviously the employer. Then who is the one who is taking the most of the benefits of the business and most of the profit of the business? Employer. Then who has the authority to change or correct the things or implement the things correctly, and who has the resources to make sure that all the trainings, resources, financial, human resources, gadgets, security equipment, everything is provided. Who is responsible? Obviously the employer. So that is why the employer is also responsible for the actions of the employees. So he should be careful in all the selection of the employees and their trainings and attitude and monitoring and supervision. This is called the vicarious liability. So we have covered all of today's topic. Let's conclude them. First, reasonably foreseeable risk. Any risk come under the common knowledge, industrial knowledge, expert knowledge, and legal knowledge. We must cover them. So far as is reasonably practicable is the minimum level of that we must achieve. Should be effective and practicable. Immediately dangerous life and health is basically the work atmosphere where that can be very dangerous to your health. It can take your life immediately or can cause the irreversible effects like cancer or other dangerous things. Then employer the absolute responsible or ultimate responsible to ensure the health and safety at workplace and ultimate accountable person. Employee the one who works under the employer for the employer legally exchanges the services for the financial benefits. Then the responsible person is the person who is responsible to ensure that every relevant person or anyone that can be affected by your undertaking is protected effectively. The relevant person basically is the person who is legally present there or may be affected by your undertakings like your activities, services, or products. So we must protect him. Then the vicarious liability is the standard legal obligation that says that even the undertakings or actions of your employees, you will be the responsible for them, as you are the ultimate responsible to hire them, manage them. So this is called vicarious liability. So that was it for today. We covered all the topics and we have concluded our series of the terminologies. So I hope this will be helpful for you. Thank you for watching and your support. Any suggestions, any feedback you can share with me. So see you in the next video. Until then, take care, be safe and healthy. Allah Hafiz.